Paltrocast.
How's your morning going aside from having to do stressful interviews like this?
Morning's going good. We have a lot of conferences and meetings here at the Queen Mary, so we're really excited to have the business and have people experience the Queen Mary herself.
For sure. Now, going into your background a bit, I know that you had your time with Warner Brothers, your time at the UCLA, etc. But how did you wind up part of this legendary institution?
Well, I was at Warner Brothers, and I think my experience with hotels and entertainment, such as Warner Brothers, and even at UCLA, I think it lended to my experience lended to the ship and what we wanted to do. So, hey, I ended up here. I couldn't be happier. When I got here, the ship wasn't open yet, so it was closed for about close to 4 years.
Mhm.
So when I went through the ship, and I definitely knew that this is something that I wanted to be part of. So I'm happy I'm here.
When you mentioned the being closed for a few years, I had visited Long Beach, I think 2018, as a guest of the city. I took a tour of the ship, and here we are, I guess, 7 years later, something like that. And it definitely feels like it's cleaner. It definitely feels like there's more going on and more preservation. Can you tell me about how it changed in those years that it was shut down?
Well, I think we took the approach of, where do we want the Queen Mary to be in 10 years? And the
Mhm.
approach was, the simple answer was we wanted to look like and feel like it did in 1936 when it launched.
Mhm.
And I know that sounds pretty basic, but it's kind of neat to envision, adults and kids coming onto the ship and seeing this luxury liner that they don't make anymore, and
Right.
see the brass polished and the beautiful carpet, and see the different types of woods on the ship just all restored. And some of these rooms, like the observation bar, back to the way it was. So I think that's been our goal. So basically what's changed is, how do we get people to the ship? How do we get people to explore it at the same time we're restoring it? So in order to do that and come up with the funds to restore it, we need the people on. So it really took the tours that we did, changing the tours up, really just keeping some of the originals that work, but also coming up with the new types of tours, food and
Mhm.
beverage, and etc. So there's just a lot of things we went to. The sleeping rooms, which we call staterooms,
Right.
that we capitalized on.
So fascinating thing to me, at least, is how everything on the ship is that original 20th century luxury, or it's modern. So, for example, the TV, totally modern.
Yeah.
The toiletries that are available in the shower and all that, totally modern. But then you have the original fan next to it. How do you decide, hey, should we go modern or vintage from thing to thing? Is there a committee?
Well, our committee, in terms of our team here, that's a good point that you bring up, because the Queen sailed in 1936 all the way till 1967. So it was a long time span
Mhm.
of different genres and different. So the staterooms on the port side and on the starboard side, those are mainly original. Now we've gone in, of course, we've restored them, but they look like they would back in the 1930s, 40s, 50s. Now the middle rooms with no windows. Those are probably a little bit more of the 60s, but those are the larger rooms.
Mhm.
And if you ever stay in one of those rooms, it gets as dark as like humanly possible. So you can really get a good night's sleep in those rooms. So we have a little bit of both. And when we sell them, some people want the bigger rooms, and they want to be in those large rooms, and some people really want the historic aspect, which is on the other side. So we sell them accordingly on what people want.
And then in terms of the modern versus the vintage, we're talking right now through the ship Wi-Fi. The connection's pretty good. So unlike most cruises, the internet connection's pretty good.
The internet connection is great, and not only do we want that for our visiting guests, but we're doing more and more conferences and meetings. When you think Queen Mary, a lot of people think of weddings and galas, but we're doing a lot more conferences. So our Wi-Fi has to be at its best. Right now, we have a pretty good. We have 3 conferences here with hundreds of people here, and our Wi-Fi, not one complaint about the Wi-Fi. So we're pretty happy about that.
And for somebody who hasn't visited yet, what are some of the entertainment options on board besides just, hey, walking around and experience rare life that you can't normally experience?
Well, if let's say you walked onto the ship. First of all, you have the main hall,
Hmm.
and entertainment wise, you have first of all we have this office. It's like a fishbowl office right in the middle of the main hall. It's called the
Hmm.
Commodore's office. So one of our ship's officers is pretty much always in there, and it's great. Families go in there. People go and take pictures with the one of the officers, and they tell you everything about the ship. No extra cost. They just tell you everything. They tell you the passion.
Hmm.
As you're passing that, we have the Queen Mary Art Gallery, which we just opened up 2 weeks ago. We have the Queen Mary Archives Museum, which we opened up December 9th. And then you
Mm.
go into the observation bar. When you go to the observation bar, constantly music, Darren.
Yeah.
Always music. Always Tuesday night, we have something called Meet Me at the Mary.
Hmm.
We love that just because people dress up in the period of the 1930s, and the band it plays that Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and just so much classic music, and then they have dance lessons too. So believe it or not, on Tuesday nights we get from 200 to 300 people that show up just to be part of the experience. Wednesday we have karaoke. Thursday we have jazz and blues. Fridays we have disco, and
Mm.
then our Sunday brunch, we always have live music. Actually, our Sunday brunch, we have room for a dance floor because people tend to want to dance on Sunday, during the day. So there's pretty much always music here. That's just our regular events that happen on a regular basis. But we also have shows. Our Alex Menham, it's like a 16-piece band on the stage, and they're incredible. We have murder mystery dinners. We have,
Hmm.
of course, as we mentioned, the tours, but we also have VIP tours where you can see pretty much everything on the ship. That concludes with a lunch with two of our officers. So there's really always something to do here. And if we can get more people on here, number one, we get to have people experience the Queen Mary, something like they've never seen before.
Hmm.
And number two, we can actually keep restoring the Queen to get to where our goal is 10 years from now, which is just a beautiful, beautiful luxury liner, like nowhere to be seen.
So when you mentioned the 10-year goals and all that, I can't think of another decommissioned ship that is anything like this. Do you have, and you don't have to name competitors or anything like that, but do you have specific resorts or ships or destinations that you look at for influence when it comes to evolving the Queen Mary?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we look at it. Doesn't matter if it's one of it. I know maybe this is not to answer your question, but a lot of it is we'll look at the photos of let's say the Queen Elizabeth that is no more, or we'll look at some of the United States. We'll look at these different ships to see what they had in there, because something as simple as dinner. You go to a restaurant, you have a menu, you have a good dinner. Over here, we try to replicate the menus. It might not be the same exact items, but it'll be the look, or it'll be
Hmm.
the type of china, what was done in those days. What did the purser do, what did the steward do? So yeah, I wouldn't say they're competition, but we will definitely. I mean, it's not just the ships too, but we'll go to the finest hotels and or restaurants or bars and kind of look, how do they do it, what kind of experience, because even though the Queen is the Queen, she's a beautiful ship.
Right.
um, we also want to look at what's being done out there, what's fun. I mean, I'll give you kind of crazy example would be, it's the Queen Mary, it's beautiful, it's regal, but we just installed pickleball up on our sun deck. you know
Oh,
so you could play pickleball. Our guests could play pickleball up there with looking at the most beautiful view of Long Beach over the water. We have a putting green. You can go over there and on the other side of the shuffleboard, you can putt some golf balls, again with the best, most beautiful view of the city of Long Beach. Typically on Saturdays we do yoga on the deck, so you're outside. So we try to look at like what else is fun, what else is being done. So it's not just like, oh, it's the Queen Mary, it's the same thing I saw last year or 5 years ago. It's more like what else is new.
yeah.
And yeah, and that's from cooking classes on. So we just try to always have something going on.
So what you just mentioned, last night I took a long stroll around at night. I saw the shuffleboard. I did not see the other amenities you mentioned, so I've got more exploring to do. So,
Yeah,
uh,
go to the sports deck.
So back to you and all that. This is in beautiful Long Beach, California, which keeps evolving as a city in a good way. When you're not here, is there an establishment or two that you can recommend nearby? Because face it, not everybody comes here and then wants to stay on the ship for their entire vacation.
Oh, no, that's a good point. I think, you know, I think the two things that come to mind, well, maybe three things. The aquarium, the Long Beach Aquarium is just beautiful. It's special.
Hmm.
From the outside, it's pretty good size, but when you go in there, it looks gigantic. And they really do a good job, not just, with the curating of all of, everything that they feature, but, their food and beverage is excellent. They really just do a good
Hmm.
job. I think the other place would be the Long Beach Museum. That's they do a good job, and of course that's we get some of our inspiration by going over there because it's a lot of the Queen Mary's about the art. And Catalina, Catalina Tours is pretty cool too.
Hmm.
I mean, you're right here in Long Beach. You get on the boat, and and boom, you're off to Catalina, and then you're back on the same day. Like, it doesn't really happen at a lot of places. So those are pretty, and again, we love our hotels here in Long Beach, and we love that they send their hotel guests here to the Queen Mary to take tours.
Hmm.
So we have a great community, great community. And as you know, the Queen Mary is owned by the city of Long Beach, and they support us, and they just do a fantastic job with hospitality.
I didn't realize it was owned by the city. Okay, well, one more question about
Yes.
the ship, one more question about you, and then you're home free. You ready?
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so the city of Long Beach, a lot of movies and television shows have been filmed here, and it's not always clear that it's filmed in Long Beach. La La Land was a great example. Do you know if any movies or TV shows have been filmed on the Queen Mary?
Yeah. The last one was well, there's been a lot. The last one that sticks in my mind has been I think it's called, what was it, 1923, the Yellowstone series.
Oh,
So I'm pretty sure it's called 1923, but it's
yeah.
the Yellowstone series, and they had the scene on the ship on the decks where you know one of the guys was thrown overboard, and then the ballroom, our Grand Salon ballroom, was used for their fine dining dinner, which was just beautiful. You had uh, the Ricardos, or that movie. I'm not sure how many years ago, and I think I probably have the title wrong. It's something like something the Ricardos, but that was filmed here. The Jonas Brothers shot a music video on the ship. Emma Stone shot a music video on the ship,
Wow.
and so there's constantly things going on. Sometimes they film here on the ship, and you don't see it for like another year or a year and a half. But the ship is definitely used a lot for filming, and not just filming, but back in the day when the ship sailed, you had the likes of Bob Hope and Fred Astaire and Frank Sinatra that actually were on the stage in our Queen Salon. So whenever we have events there and the band gets on the stage, we're always like, "Hey, guess who was on that stage?"
Wow. I,
Yeah.
I just learned a lot right there. And the last question for you specifically managing this joint,
Mhm.
what's your favorite part of the position and the work here?
My favorite part is working with the team to come up with ideas to always to make change to create experiences. It's all
Mhm.
about creating experiences, and it's not okay, let's just make sure it's a nice steak, even though we have the best food here. It's more of like, what's the waiter saying to the family? How are they making them feel? How are they making
Mhm.
that they feel it? And that's I think that's my favorite part is really working with the team, because everybody can, not everybody, but if you go to a hotel, everyone has a bed, everyone has a TV,
Mhm.
and etc. But what's going to make us special? And that really comes down to our people creating experiences. Maybe handing out a sticker to a kid, or we have Theodore, our mascot, roaming around on Friday, Saturday, Sundays, taking pictures with the kids. Or I tell you, a great experience is doing a simple like a Valentine's dinner where it's really classy, black tie, where people get to do things you really don't do anymore for the most part, or the meet me at the Mary on Tuesdays, where they come dressed up in the 1920s and 30s. So creating experiences, and if it doesn't work, it's okay. We just change it and we try something else. So I think, but the thing is, we're always moving forward. We never say, oh, good, we're getting some good press on this. Okay, we're good. We keep going and the team keeps
Evolving.
going. Yeah. So it's pretty neat to be part of a team like this.